My name is Lewis Harrison, and this is a talk that's really going to be focused on really transcending problems, challenges, and obstacles. But usually if you have challenges, obstacles, and problems, so what I want to do is give you something you can really wrap your hands around in terms of relating to what I call problems, obstacles, and challenges, which most people think are just problems. So I always distinguish between what a challenge is, what a problem is, and what an obstacle is. This is one of the first ways to get control of a situation that seems like it's out of control. A challenge is something that you can transcend once you understand how to do it. An obstacle is something that is in front of you, and the only way to get past it is to go over it, under it, around it, or through it. And a problem is something that you cause for yourself. A problem is always based on your perception of what's going on, your attitude about what's going on. So for me, whenever I deal with the discomfort that comes with having a challenge, an obstacle, or a problem, because that's what you experience discomfort. There's something you want to do, there's some place you want to go, there's something you want to get done, and you're just not able to do it. And when that happens, I say to myself, was this caused by my attitude, my perception of what's going on? Did I have expectations that it was going to be easy to just go to the embassy and fill out the forms, and there I'll be in Moscow, as opposed to I'm going to run into bureaucrats who tell you the wrong forms and the wrong place to go at the wrong time, etc. So that's one aspect of it. That's what a problem is. An obstacle is something serious. I had to be here at a particular time today. There was a lot of traffic jams. So one of the ways that you deal with obstacles is by being able to see the likelihood that something is going to be a challenge. So, are we clear about the distinction between an obstacle, a problem, and a challenge? Repeat. A challenge is something that there is a solution to, but you have to figure out what it is. An obstacle is something that is really in your way. And you have to go over it, around it, under it, or through it. And of course, a problem is something that you usually create because you do not plan properly, you have poor rapport skills, you don't delegate effectively. There's something about you and how you choose to interact with the world that has caused this to come about. Everybody's clear about that? Okay. So, let's look at the 4 key areas that would cause somebody to have tremendous stress or even depression because they're unable to solve a problem, or go over, around, under, or through an obstacle, or deal with a challenge. Well, the first thing you run into, there's 4 things. The first one is external factors beyond your control. What would be an example of an external factor beyond your control?
The weather.
The weather. You read the weather reports, they said it's going to be sunny tomorrow, and suddenly it's 10 below zero and it's snowing out. It's beyond your control. The second thing is internal factors beyond your control. For the most part, it's not absolute. For the most part, gender, height, race, but generally speaking, if I'm 4'2", I'm not going to be a star in the NBA. I might be, but not likely. If I'm 7'9", it's unlikely I'm going to be a jockey at the racetrack. It's possible, but unlikely. And I couldn't even see how it would be possible, but miracles do happen. So the first thing is external things beyond your control. The second thing is internal things beyond your control. The third thing is lack of skill. The lack of skill means not just that you don't have that skill yourself. It means that you don't have the ability to delegate it to somebody else who could do it for you. You can live out of abundance. So the question is, how do you do that? Well, the first thing to do is self-assessment. I actually use a manual here on self-assessment. And it's this whole manual that I ask myself questions. What would you like to have in your life that you don't have now? What are the primary reasons you do not have what you don't want to have now? What would you not be willing to do in order to get what you say you want to have in your life? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's about 40, 25, 35 pages long. So I go through that every day. So I'm always looking to assess, evaluate, and define what I'm dealing with. Is it a challenge? Is it an obstacle? Or is it a problem? And once I define that, then I have to decide what is the source. Is it external factors outside of my control? Is it internal factors beyond my control? Is it lack of skill or faulty belief systems? People have beliefs about things, about how things work, that are unrelated to any reality, any functional reality. What that means, if you have no regrets about the past and no expectations of the future, then you learn to be in the moment as effectively as you possibly can, and then you don't suffer and you don't struggle because of unfulfilled expectations or regrets that haunt you. You follow this? I hope I'm not moving too fast for you here. So there are some people who have biochemical issues. Maybe they're bipolar, maybe they have low blood sugar, maybe they have too many positive ions in their environment, and they may get stressed out or they may get depressed for biochemical reasons. But you can be tested for that. You get a thyroid test, a 6-hour glucose tolerance test. There's a lot of things that a person can do to help define if there's some biochemical cause for the kind of depression, stress, obstacles, problems, or challenges that they are facing. So most people in life think that success comes from having money. And I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not going into that anti-success thing. No, some people are economically successful. But people think they can only get what they want through money. And the truth is we all have talents. We have time, space, information, influence, power, emotional clarity, psychological clarity, wisdom, a spiritual intention, the ability to lead others, the ability to delegate to others. Each one of those is worth something in the marketplace. And so what happens is if you do a self-assessment where you look to see where your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, you can leverage those against each other to maximize yourself in a situation. It's about leveraging your time, leveraging space, leveraging information, knowing whether you have a challenge, a problem, or an obstacle that is the source of why you may be stressed out or you may have some depression. And once I define that process through the assessment exercises that I do, then I look to see what is the course of action that I need to take to transcend this obstacle, to transcend this challenge, to solve this problem. Questions?
What would, like, say someone gets very sick, you know, close to you and they die or something, are they very sick? Is that a challenge? They may not get better.
It depends how they got sick. So if they have high blood pressure and they eat lots of salt, and they're fat, and they don't exercise, and they have high stress, that is a belief system caused problem. This is within their control. It's not an external factor and it's not an internal factor. It's something that false belief systems and lack of skill and how they handle their health. If you take really good care of yourself and you work really hard, but let's say you get depression because you have a thyroid malfunction, and you go to a doctor that didn't test you for thyroid because you didn't read my book on depression, then that would be something that is an obstacle. It's not about belief and it's not just a challenge. You have to, so I mean sometimes you have a problem and no one told you what the cause of the problem was. That's how I wrote this book on depression, Healing Depression Naturally, because I realized that most people go to a doctor, they have depression, and the doctor says, take this pill. But maybe it's low blood sugar.
But I had another question.
Yeah, please.
One thing that bums me out, mortality.
Yes.
Now, since my twin passed away, I always got bummed out. So how do I,
Well, have you been to Twinsville yet?
No, what's that?
Okay, I'm the answer man. So, there's a convention every year in Twinsville, Ohio. 3,000 pairs of twins. And there are support groups there called Twinless Twins. People who are twins who lost their twin. So since that bums you out, probably being, I mean, we all need community, right?
Right.
Being among other twins who've lost twins might be a very healing process for you. So your homework is, now if I run into you next year, I say, did you do the thing? You tell me, no, I'm not even gonna talk to you, I'm just gonna walk by you. So these are really specific tools and tips for being happy, for being content. No expectations about the future, no regrets about the past. Say yes unless the cost is too high. Live in kindness and compassion and empathy for others. Have a distinction between what is a challenge, what is an obstacle, and what is a problem that you've created. And recognize it's either an external factor, an internal factor that has caused it, lack of skill in some way, or a false belief system. And you can leverage 17 or 18 different human qualities: time, space, information, influence, psychological clarity, emotional balance, to really help you define that process. Great, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And